Good evening and welcome to the August Health and Education Committee meeting. And committee, first order of business, need to approve the minutes. Do I hear a motion for that, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. A second?
Second.
Mr. Soriano, thank you. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And second item of business here is community care report. The June community care report is on your technology souped up electronic device there, but we've already approved that. We did that in July. So the August meeting is there, and I'm sure you've read it, and Ms. Cook can tell us how great things are, or the mayor can, or both of them can. In pretty good shape out there. Ms. Cook, you've of course been on their committee, just recently reappointed to the committee, as a matter of fact.
Oh, really?
I think so. Or are things okay out there?
Everything's fine. Paul Johnson was elected as county commissioner, and the bylaws will not let us have two commissioners. So he resigned from the board and said he'd leave it to me.
And I believe the county commission appointed Fay Elam to that spot. Isn't that correct?
Has it been done?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. I need a motion to approve the community care report.
So moved.
Ms. Cook, second.
Second.
Mr. Turner, thank you. Commissioner, all in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? And of course, there are none. Ms. Garrett is here, fresh from a conference in Cookville, I believe, right?
Yes, sir.
And she's going right back immediately? No, tomorrow morning, I guess.
That's right.
Great vacation spot, Cookville, Tennessee.
The Rutherford County Health Department, she has her report there from July on the on your iPad, and it's color coded and all those pretty things. And Ms. Garrett, what do you have for us tonight?
So this is my report for July, and just wanted to kind of give you a couple of updates on our promote section. You know, we're really trying to focus on preventative health as a health department, as well as improving the health and protecting the health. But on our promote, we've been working on some obesity projects that you've heard me speak about. One of them is identifying good walking places in every district. And so we completed 2 more of those. We call them Mayor's Walks. And we had one in Smyrna and one in Laverne since we last met. And those were really well attended. We did those both at a school, Cedar Grove and Laverne Lake Elementary. They both have relatively new tracks that are open to the community that lives around them that they can use. So we kind of showcased those tracks and let people know they were there, and that was successful. And then of course we did lots of walk-in physicals and immunizations to get all the kiddos ready for back to school and get everything that they needed since the last time we met.
Questions, Ms. Garrett, from the committee?
I've got one question, Ms. Garrett. I know it's probably early. My company started promoting flu shots in September, October. Have you heard anything about anticipated flu strains or severity this year at all yet? Have they come out with anything like that?
Nothing yet. We have received our protocols for how we'll give vaccine and all that, but the vaccine itself hasn't arrived.
Okay.
We do expect that it will be here any time now, and then we can start giving it as soon as we get it.
So no information on whether CDC or anybody thinks it might be a more active than usual flu season or anything like that?
No, that's a good question, but no, at this point it's a little hard to even gauge that.
Okay.
They've tried to, the whole science behind flu shots, they've tried to estimate what will be the strains and what will work effectively, and so at this point we just kind of have to wait and see. But those are good questions, and we will be getting it. So if people want to call the clinics, you know, they can. Probably, I would say the first week in September, we would hope to have some then. So I'll just give the numbers for people at home. 898-7880 is the Murfreesboro number. 898-7880, and then the Smyrna clinic is 355-6175. 355-6175. We also have a web page that they can get through the county, and we'll put it updated there as well when we get it. So multiple ways to try to get the word out.
Good. Thank you.
And of course, I'll let y'all know as well.
Will it go on Rutherford County TV?
the Channel 19.
Just the availability of those shops?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I can do that. That's a really good idea.
Is there any worry about getting a flu shot too soon? I mean, does one last all the way, if you get it the first week of September, do people need to be concerned that like that won't carry them all the way through this late winter, spring?
Right,
I mean,
exactly. Very good question. And the research says it's fine to get it as soon as it's available.
Right.
Because we're seeing flu earlier and earlier every year. So the sooner you can go ahead and get it on board, especially our high-risk people, our elderly and our young, we want to get that in there as soon as we can. So no problem with it running out. It will last them the whole season. So, good question.
Anything else, committee members? Ms. Garrett?
Move to approve the report.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Second.
Phillips. Second from Mr. Soriano, please. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Of course, there is none. Ms. Garrett, thank you.
Thank you, guys. And I just want to say it's been an honor working with you guys. Hopefully, we'll see each other again on this committee, or at least some of us. So I really appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you. Good job, by the way.
Thank you.
Special Projects Report. Take it away.
All right. The only thing I've done is just posted, what's been paid and what's been encumbered. So if there's nothing in particular that I need to point out, if you have any questions, just.
You all ain't started any new schools you didn't tell us
No,
about or
no,
anything like
no,
that?
No.
You're not building a school with
No.
and all? My goodness.
Motion to approve the report.
Second.
Any further discussion? Thank you both. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? There is no opposition. Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa.
School board amendments, and the director is here, and Mr. Sandvik, finance director, is also here. And come on up, gentlemen. Good evening to you both. Committee, you should have gotten, well, I think they're going to give you copies. Oh, I believe, is it one amendment, Mr.
Same
Sandvik?
one.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Same in here, right?
It's online.
Yeah, if you want paper.
Becky needs one.
Yes.
I got one down here.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm good.
That's good.
Or if she gives up, we'll get it up first.
Anytime you're ready, gentlemen.
This, of course, is amendment addresses the closing out the books at the end of June for some projects that are not complete, and then, of course, reopening them if they're not due for the next year. So it's things that are basically already started. The money is there to do that. So we're wanting to amend $470,570 from committed for capital projects in order to complete the 13-14 projects as presented. It's old projects just rolling forward to 14-15.
Are all of them done, or are they still kind of in the works?
A mix.
It's a mix, yeah.
I believe the seating is done. I'm not our goal was to have the chiller done, but I don't know.
Well, the Blackman chiller was put in, but well, that was the middle school chiller. We had another one go down.
Yeah.
We're getting an age, of course, they're 93,000 when they go down, but we're,
Yeah.
had to replace one Blackman Middle already too.
We've been there and done that with the county jail a couple of years ago. and Kind of know how that is.
You said there was one that went down, Mr. Rum, or there's another one that's happened
There's
since
one,
then?
we're gonna have to do, the one that we've replaced already, which we were able to do right at the start of school, was the one at
Right.
the middle school.
Okay.
So the one at the elementary is also.
And we had a third that came up.
Well, Gary's got them listed. We've got a number of those that are of that particular model, and they're all about the same thing that's happening, so. As we put this in the budget as part of the capital improvement things to look at, so.
But same model, all going out at the same time?
It's the same vendor.
Oh, okay.
And pretty much the same model. They do say that the newer models are much more dependable. I mean, they feel good about, the replacement.
That's probably what they told you when you sold it.
I'm
one.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, that's curious to me a little bit that 3 of them have all gone out within a relatively same time frame of the same company, the same kind, just doesn't
It's
add up
just
to me.
the number of years that you get on them.
And one of them costs substantially less than this.
If
I
we
think it
can,
was in the high
we actually
40s.
took some of the ones that we have had to take one out. We didn't rob it of workable parts. And of course, workable parts are not your coils and stuff like that
Mhm.
generally. It has to be pumps, fans, some things like that. Of course, but your electronic boards are so different in the newer ones and things too that it creates other issues for you. But we use all the parts we can get somewhere to keep the others going.
There's so many schools out there now with the lifetime expectancy of this stuff. You're just gonna have so many go out every year regardless, because it is a,
When was that school
Something
built?
that
It was
ages
in
out.
the 90s, wasn't it?
No, Blackman High opened for 99, 2000.
Okay,
So it was a year or two after that.
okay, early
Yes.
2000. 14 years, 12 years.
The seats in question here at Riverdale and Oakland are in the
Gym
upstairs
seats.
gymnasium. I was out there when they had them both places, as a matter of fact, and they had entirely cleaned them out. There was nothing up there except they painted it, and that was all. But I am told that they are absolutely beautiful, and they're all in, and has changed the entire view of the gymnasium. The look is terrific. I don't know, I haven't seen it myself yet, but I'm hoping that's true. I guess that would be
1972
40
vintage.
40 some odd years, though they haven't been touched to my knowledge, except when they
Put
cannibalized
bolts
a
or
seat or
screw
two
in.
and
Yeah.
to repair another seat or two. Other than that, I don't think they've been touched.
They could not get parts and all, was my
Right,
understanding there.
right. Any other comments, questions on this amendment? So we need to call the roll on this. If there's nothing,
you got a motion?
oh, we need a motion. Oh, yeah, let's get a motion before we call the roll.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Jordan. A second.
Second.
Who's our likely second? Commissioner Phillips. All right, always there for us when we need it. Now you can call the roll, Ms. Hilton.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Will Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. I asked the director tonight if he could spend a few minutes bringing us up to date on the construction at Smyrna Primary, Eagleville, and Blackman Middle, and of course, as he always does, he readily agreed. Also, I knew you would be interested in our count and how things were, the attendance at various places, how it's been, how Stewart's Creek has been affected, et cetera. So, Director Odom, go ahead. Give us
We'll talk about some of the projects, of course, and you may have visited Smyrna Primary yourself, some, but they are in the classrooms. Of course, in order to, the library and some of the other areas are not complete. The cafeteria, the serving lines, the 2 new serving lines, that thing looks so much better. I mean, it's just really nice. They're excited about it, but it's certainly they helped them with the space. So that's coming along. I can't tell you exactly completion date, but it's going to take a little bit longer to get the library and that particular piece done. We're looking more towards the end of September for the Blackman project, middle school there. So again, it was the inability to lay blocks in the mortar during a cold winter, some rain and all that was involved in that. I did push them to complete the cafeteria because we do have the students there. They're conducting some classes in the auditorium, some social studies and things where they're bringing in more than one classroom at a time and doing some joint operations for that. So it's going to be towards the end of September, basically for that. Of course, Eagleville project's coming along. That's going to take a while. We're set to tap into the sewer, those particular projects also. But other than cutting into a water line and a phone line or two, we're coming along fine on that, I think. but it just it's nice, and it'd be very much appreciated and give us additional capacity too. So that's the good thing about it.
I talked with Dr. Vogel at Smyrna Primary about, I don't know, maybe it's been a month ago, 3 weeks ago, perhaps, and I'm passing the word along to you all. Probably should have done the entire commission the other night, and I didn't do it, but obviously she's very pleased with the fact that those portables are gone, that the classrooms are ready for use, and the cafeteria, she was very excited about the cafeteria, and she said they'll make it in the media center for another month or so, and she asked me to pass that along to you all, her thanks and how much we have helped out the student body and the faculty and the office staff there. So I've done my duty.
Thank you.
You want to get the attendance now? And,
We'll do that. If you're ready
what's
for-
what's the big number?
If
If
you're
they have
ready
no
for
questions
that.
on, you have any questions? Excuse me, committee, on the construction, and I know Ms. Allen particularly is just bubbling over with excitement with Smyrna Primary. I know she is.
Yes, she is.
But do we have any questions for these two gentlemen on any of the construction projects going on right now?
If I may
Yes,
comment.
please.
I am working on a building program amendment to take to the board next week. If we can get the answers we need, otherwise it will get postponed, but we'll be closing out some of our older projects.
New 5-year plan coming in, which we know is probably a 3-year plan. That's in your plans, I'm sure. Yes, just say yes.
Yes.
Director Odom, if you want to go with the
Okay.
attendance, please.
And I'll follow fairly closely with the
What's the big
dialogue
number?
here.
What's
The big number as of the 12th day of school was 41,544. That does not include, on the spreadsheet you're looking at, does not include the first column, which is the governor's, used to be called Governor's Preschool. That's funded totally separately. But
41,000 what?
41,544. It's in green, kind of at the bottom of there's a column called total. Right at the bottom should be the number.
Let's
You
see it
see.
now.
It's it. And that's 680 more than the end of the year. That's considerably less than the 1,140 we saw last year. We're still early to be looking at numbers totally, but there's some things that changed this year. I think some of the things that we were hoping for, the new Murfreesboro school, the overall Creek School, has helped us in several instances there. If you can look, and so I included with this each school's changing numbers, percentage up and down, that sort of thing, and taking a look at that. But you can see Smyrna Backman Elementary minus 193 and Brown's Chapel minus 36. So you have a little over 200 that were probably impacted pretty much directly by the new overall Creek school. Veterans Parkway comes out over towards Blackman Road, so part of that was the zone for the Brown's Chapel also. So that's why those two schools were impacted there. Really, we're hoping Blackman Elementary, maybe they had so many teachers on carts and portables and putting kids everywhere. They were over 1,000. It certainly will give them a little bit more flexibility, although I think that number will climb back after a little while. I did report to the board why I thought some of the other number changes, taking a look at. There's about 3 things in Musselburgh City that I think was very wise. They did rezone their district, and they adopted more of a neighborhood school concept this time. So by rezoning and doing the neighborhood school, they had a number of people that actually I think have chosen to stay probably a little bit longer, assume 6th grade. Normally we would get about 50% of their 6th graders, and this year was probably more like 35%, 40%, something like that. The new bricks always draw, so overall Creek certainly has drawn several, so I think that's another factor. I think the third factor that's played into it a little bit is the free meals program, breakfast and lunch. And of course, when you have about breakfast is about $1 and lunch is about $2, so it's about $3 per student per day. It's very attractive, very often to parents for that. So I think those factors together has rebalanced a little bit on that. So The lunch situation is probably a question in your mind a little bit. We did some calculations looking at the federal program for that. You need to be, our calculation from Fred Blair, who is over our food service, said it would probably take at least 55% of free reduced numbers in order to try to break even, because if not, you'll be taking funds out of your general purpose school fund, which you really do not want to do. And so we're at about 42, 43%. So it's not economically viable for us. There's also another little caveat that's out there that's going to come to play on all the districts that are doing this. In order to kind of get this started, the feds did a little bit of multiplier, and the multiplier this year is 1.6. The multiplier next year is 1.5. The multiplier after that's 1.4. So it's another one of those things very often where the federal government kind of starts something and then weans themselves off of it and turn it over to you. So it's one of those things you have to look hard at, because I know it's difficult when you stop and think about it.
I had wondered about Davidson County. They doing all of theirs.
You know, they're somewhere around 70, last I looked, about 70-some% free reduced. You get a little more funds for free lunch. There's additional there, so you can spread some of that cost a little bit to do that, and especially if you get the multiplier for some of that. I did see where they were going to have to hire 200 more food service employees, which is another thing. I'm sure it's appreciated by people, but right now it's just not an
I
economical.
just wondered where the money was coming from.
You're paying it.
I know we are. And that's what I was wondering, you know. And don't get me.
Won't go there.
We won't go there.
Okay.
I had a question along those same lines, Carol. I was thinking the same thing. So have we had to hire any staff as a result of any changes that the feds have done with our free and reduced program?
Not really, because we didn't. I mean, we've got just a normal growth, and I as of today couldn't tell you exactly what our percentages changed very much. I do not expect a big change. We actually didn't see a great change last year from the year before.
We did see it.
1 to 2%, something.
Yeah, we saw some increases, but.
You know, back in 2000, when I did one of the presentations to you, it was looking like Rutherford County was like 27% or 28% or so, and you move forward to where we were last year, and you're up about 43 or something like that. So, of course, the feds changed the numbers, the qualified numbers and all too, but we've gradually seen a step up in the poverty rate in Rutherford County over the years.
Because I was just curious about Davidson County. You know, they're providing the meals, but are they also paying for that additional staff? Or is
They would
the
have to
system-
take it out of it, or
Okay.
take it out of the general purpose school one.
Yeah, I was curious about that. If, you know, the system's paying that, or if that's part of that federal program.
I'm sure it's coming out of, they did receive a grant to do some too, so, which, again, after you get that high, that becomes attractive again for some federal grants. So they did a couple of things, I think, to pull that off. A few more things I'd like you to just take a look at as you kind of look at this spreadsheet. We've looked at the enrollment a couple of ways. One is by grade structure, which Jeff has done looking at that. And again, we haven't finished the first months. But in the Murfreesboro area, elementary through high school, we've had a decrease of about 0.18%. So for all practical purposes, about the same. And part of that's that shift to Overall Creek that changes those numbers. The Smyrna area has had an increase of about 3.73% at this point. And Laverne area is up by 0.12%. So that's kind of a change.
Yeah.
Looking at the kind of looking at it by grade structure when you look at elementary. Now our elementary is K5, Murfreesboro City is K6. So it's not as easy to do apples and apples, you know, when you begin to take a look at that. So, but our enrollment K5 is down by 1.28%, you know, basically. And again, that's that shifting. And that may be a one-time shift for a year, basically, as students, and again, I think a lot of it is that 6th grade, additional students stay there, and the ones from Blackman Elementary, that sort of thing. Middle school enrollment's up 1.27%. Interesting here, the high school enrollment was up 5.29%. And you can see that in several ways. And of course, I was reading in the paper that this was supposed to be a period of time across the United States that high school enrollment would be declining. And it's our highest this time when you look at that. Some specialty schools, which would be your magnet schools, and Eagle, which is all the K-12, Thurman Francis, Magnet, and all like that, 3.32%. The one thing that I would kind of draw your attention to is Health and Ed, as we kind of look forward. Some of our school groupings, if you look at our middle schools, and the chart is designed with elementary at the top, high school is there in the middle, is kind of at the bottom. If you kind of look, they're clustered alphabetically, but on the spreadsheet they're grouped, elementary, high, and middle. If you look at the middle, Blackman Middle, Laverne Middle, Oakland Middle, Rock Springs Middle, Siegel Middle, already have over 1,000 students enrolled, even with the change this year. So you see that there's going to be some pressure on middle schools. Stewart's Creek High this year increased by 404 students. And of course, the board did a grandfathering for 2 years, if you may recall, to allow students that were already there on athletic teams, that sort of thing, with Smyrna High, Laverne High, and Blackman High, that they could stay and graduate from their school. So I expected really to see this year, the second year, a downshift of the feeder schools, being Blackman High, Smyrna, and Laverne, and they're up marginally, all three of them. So but we didn't see that decline, even though the fact that you got 404 more at Stewart's Creek High. So that was a strange phenomenon to me as I looked at that. Another thing that's happening to us is all three Stewart's Creek schools are increasing enrollments above the system average. Stewart's Creek Elementary they're plus 5.5%, Stewart's Creek Middle at plus 7.4%, and Stewart's Creek High at 30.1%. So that area is really beginning to grow. There's a couple of developments coming out there that's been sold, some farms in the last several months that I think is going to change that for us. The issue there is the way we purchased that property. There's not going to be much way you can add on to those schools. Not that you need to at the high school yet. I did, in looking at their growth and just simply considering the grandfathering option of the students that will be going to Stewart's Creek High School next year. If it's not the highest high school we have, it could be one of our largest. It could be up around 2,000 fairly easy, because you can see you're over 700 this year. So 1,700, I mean. So you're going to see that school get to 2,000 very, very quickly. So that's on our radar. I did have my planner to give me some information today that I just kind of share with you. Of course, in Smyrna, the Copperfield units there, 288. Grand Oak Town Park, which may have been held back for a month, 300 units. And that, again, those affect the Laverne High, Rock Springs Middle, Cedar Grove. That's an issue to think about there. The first one there, the 288 units, would be Stewart's Creek High, Stewart's Middle, and Stewart's Creek Elementary is exactly what we were talking about before.
Is that the one over there behind Target?
No, Target is the one, I think, Grand Oak, that's the one at the Grand Oak Town Park. That's the second one, 300 units for Laverne High and Rock Springs Middle and Cedar Grove. CGE is Cedar Grove Elementary, basically, was where that one would be. In Muffinsburg, of course, we're looking out, and there are other developments that they're completing. This is just some fairly new ones that are coming on for us to look at. Jennings Jones, the 300 residential, which would be Riverdale High School, the Whitworth Buchanan, and thanks to you, we did purchase a little bit additional properties. If we have to do the addition at Whitworth Buchanan, we can do similar to what we did at Blackman. And I would think the city will also pick some of that up, but if not, it would be at Buchanan Elementary is where that one would be. The Maples property, which is now beginning to develop the plots, you can look at the plots. It's like 700 lots there. That again would probably be Riverdale High and Whitworth Buchanan Middle, and then Buchanan or City Elementary in that particular case. So another one in Musselburgh is Belden Reserve, which is kind of off Highway 99. That's slated to have about 312 units, and that would be your Blackman High and Blackman Middle. And again, probably city schools. If not a city school, our closest one basically would be Rockvale. You're looking at that. I total those up. That's over 1,900 units right there. You know, in just those, not counting all the other building that's going on. So The future looks like there's gonna be a lot of business, I guess, to think about.
How do you predict how many students would come with apartments? That's gotta be tricky.
You know, we use a guesstimate sometimes. The thing about an apartment, it depends so much on whether the apartment, how the design is. Is it for young professionals, or is it for older people, or whatever it happens to be? But Shane uses some numbers like, he'll say like 1.5, you might be in your residential or something like that, whereas when you get into an apartment, it might be 0.6 or something. But what you find is in an apartment complex, and we hear all the time, well, apartments won't be as many, but in the same acreage, ground, you're going up. So all of a sudden, even though it might be a 0.6, it can certainly equal more than a house very quickly, because you've compacted them together and gone vertically with them. So, you just don't. It's a guess, but that's about all you can do.
What is the complex called out on the Medical Center Parkway before you get to the avenues on the right that looks like a town unto itself? And that's
I forgot.
Just off of Garrison Lane.
No, it's the one that behind the lake and an area they have across from Culver's and some of the others you look over
Yeah.
there.
Peter D's, no.
I mean, that's a massive.
It is, and it's kind of going to be a young professional thing and all. Our board did last year change our elementary zoning to Brown's Chapel for that one, when we were doing some of the rezoning. And you can look at this chart and see some of our rezoning work, because you'll see a decrease at Oakland Middle, which was our intention, to try to get that down a little bit. You see an increase at Whitworth Buchanan Middle, which was moving some of those students to do that. So some of our zoning worked. Again, that's one of those that's really hard to say whether there'll be young children in it, how much or not. We don't have a really good feel for it. It'll impact us more at middle and high, certainly there, because I think a lot of that will be city and elementary.
Well, I know that. I mean, they're much closer to Blackman. So I know that rezoning had to be at least painful, I would think. I know we finished up last year. I think the first time committee in a long time with no school over 2,000.
But you had additions going on at 3.
Right.
With Eagleville in the plans, and you had Smyrna Primary in the plans, and you had the Blackman Middle in the plans.
I'm just looking at Blackman High at 2,032 already this year, and I don't know how many more you can cram in there without making it the highest in the state again.
Well, we hope. Yeah. The other issue is that they're in the second year of that grandfather, so the freshmen and sophomore coming in. You can kind of look at that. Some of the ways that you tell, if you look at the chart, is look at the grade. Look at the enrollment by grade, and you see like Blackman High, the freshmen. Let me go down to Blackman High. The 9th grade class 513, 511, 525, and 483. You know they're going up some almost for sure, simply because you're going to swap a 500 for the 483 or so is a little bit. But we look at those sometimes. Look at what's the change in enrollment, and when you look at Stewart's Creek High, you see some of that very, very definitely. They had 540 freshmen come, but the senior class is only 257. But that was that grandfather. That was in the state of either Smyrna, Laverne, or Blackman. So you can kind of see their shift alone as they pick up another full freshman class next year and lose that 200 and something. That's why I'm saying that they could certainly be over 2,000 easily to do that. So, you make your projections and hope that you can work ahead. Just a few other reminders here, and any other questions that you have. It's still early, again, for enrollment. The ones that we tend to bring for you and use with our board more often is the 3rd month. That is one of the months that the state does their calculations for average daily membership. Now, we're paid on membership now because you have to create a seat for that student. Years ago, it was average daily attendance, but it's primarily average daily membership. They use attendance in a few areas, average daily transported in little areas for funding, but basically it's a membership thing. And the 3rd month is one of those that's really quiet, more stable, and so you get a little better look at it. So we'll bring you some more back then. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the 348 preschool is not counted in hours. It's funded separately. It's not ADM funded, and it's pretty much 100% funded from the state.
The governors are, but we have some special ed
Special ed
preschools, which
preschoolers
are not.
Yeah, but they receive, again, separate funding from federal funds. Doesn't cover it all, you know. And remember, we're responsible for a student with certain handicap conditions from age 3 through age 21. And so those preschools that you see that are special education are students with disability that qualify under the federal guidelines for service.
And those essentially are an unfunded mandate for us.
So you
Special ed.
say you didn't get all your kids till Labor Day. Some kids showed up at Labor Day. Is that still so? I mean, schools
Not
start
as
so
much.
much above that. But,
Yeah, it's
you know,
not as
20
much.
years ago, principal used to say, well, some of the kids, I don't see them till Labor Day, you know, because schools start a week before. But we're starting a month before now, or almost.
I don't see as much. My guess is that we're showing 683, that we're going to be somewhere around a little over 700 mark or something like that.
There's not that influx
But
it used to be years ago to show up.
It's not, but really very surprising. We took the count Thursday before the weekend, and I sent it out to the board. It was 608. And then so we took it Monday and saw 683. I said, "You mean we added 75 over the weekend?" And we did. So that was kind of surprising. So there is some of that. They're not coming in on the first day.
The thing talking about the developments, the apartments, and the subdivisions and all, I mean, that's good information to me, but I never have thought anybody's moving here because there's an apartment or there's a house. And so say, well, all those apartments go, we're going to educate all those kids. In my opinion, those kids are coming no matter what, and they got to live somewhere.
Right.
So they might as well be condensed in one spot instead of scattered over 4 more farms or something. But everybody always said, yo, you don't need any more subdivisions. That's, in my opinion, like blaming the car dealerships for the traffic. You know, I mean, that's just, if you couldn't sell the cars, they wouldn't be driving. They'd just go somewhere else to get their cars. I don't think anybody moves to Murfreesboro because there's a house for sale here for the most part. They had to come here for the jobs and everything else, and we got to educate their kids. So I don't think we can blame the subdivisions on our overcrowdedness.
Our primary thing in looking at it is where it's
They're
gonna
going.
be. And that's why I said, that's why I kind of gave y'all some on the Stewart's Creek.
Of
since
course,
that
and
seems to be an issue.
a development like the Maples is going to take
Yeah.
10 to 20 years to
Yeah,
build out.
It will.
You know.
It'll be a long time, but I guess the other thing, the kind of the third bullet, because of our size, smaller enrollment percentage still result in significant numbers, like the 1.67, which is the 1.7. It's write it off. It's still related to 683 students. And the bad side of that is, because as I say in the last one, ADM funding runs 1 year behind. The state pays you behind, and they've been making that up, basically about what they call growth funds. So if we stay somewhere on about 1.7 or somewhere in that, the governor actually reduced this last year in the budget for this current year. Is it 15 million? Well, it was 25 million a few years ago, down to 15, I think.
I think so.
Which is that pie slice share of everybody that's growing quickly. But the problem is they base most of that on percentages. And so for us, that may be 683 students, but somebody else may have 2.5 students, and then that's 225 students. So even that's not totally fair. But you run into the same thing with every other department you have in Rutherford County government. Somebody builds a house in March, they get on a tax roll for the next year starting in January. So, I mean, we're just like you in much of that. So it's the same situation. Questions? Sure.
I looked at it a little differently than Mr. Odom. Since Overall Creek was K-6, I looked at what 7th, 8th grade growth. It was over 4%. So it's like K-6, we have barely any, but 7, 12, over 4 to over 5%.
But when the state looks at it, they're going to look at that
They'll look
overall
at that
number.
cost.
Yeah, what I was saying about how many we get, if you'll look at the 5th grade enrollment at the bottom, just kind of go all the way at the bottom in the blue, our 5th grade is 2708. And when you jump up to the 6th grade, it's 3132. That basically is the number of students who chose to come to Rutherford County Middle School from the city. I mean, much of that is what that is. And then you'll find that the remainder of them tend to come the next year in 7th grade because they go through 6th grade. So you see another jump there of about another 600 students. We've been seeing about 50-50, but like I said, this year that number is a little bit different. I think more stayed in the city for all of those reasons that I mentioned.
Of course, we'd have a real problem if the city decided they were overcrowded and decided to drop 6th grade. That would be a way they
Devastating.
could shut down their building program to a great extent, you know.
About 1,100, they have about 1,100 something per grade, so you can kind of look at your numbers in that range. You immediately have to try to find space for 1,100 students in this area, in Murfreesboro area, which would be really tough.
They come to us because we offer so many programs, I would assume.
You know, if a child is in band or athletics, some of the career and technical education things that start in middle school, I mean, I understand it. It's attractive to several. So we have a number of people that make that decision. And, you know, especially if they've got a sibling there or something that happens to already be an 8th grader in the middle school or something, you begin to understand that very quickly.
Committee, anything else from Mr. Odom and Mr. Sandy?
Good information.
Very good, thank you.
We'll give you some more as we kind of get further along and it's stabilized. So you get more.
I'm keeping yours for sure.
We track it by class size and everything. I didn't bring you the big sheet, but we have to track class size and all like that. Mrs. Ago and I were talking this morning, and again, you have to do that 1 to 20, 1 to 25, you know, what grade structure and all. We had one school, we wound up having to add 2 teachers in. They had about 8 students growth because one of them was in the K-3 section, the other was in the 4th and 5th grade, actually, section. And so when it throws them over that ratio, it's not when the 20 more come in or the 25 more come in always. It's whenever you tip over that number that's the pupil-teacher ratio. They do allow us to cluster K through 3 together and 4 through 6 together, and then 7 through 12 together. 7 to 12 is 1 to 30, but and high school class size is by class, not since it's not self-contained, it's by actual classrooms. Subject areas typically.
Preliminary report is for the state is due when? By school.
Used to be, when you were in it, you had to have it in by the 1st of October, they took it. The
Right.
last several years, that thing's gotten later and later and later at the state to where they got up close to January 1st this last year. But they still do it. I mean, everything is electronic. Of course, we had to have a new attendance system this year. And so those electronically flows into what's called EIS, Education Information System the state has. So they can go in and look at our class size. That's when you put a child in a class with a teacher. I mean, they're all identified, so they can screen it, run it, and see what your class size is for any of those. I'm not sure this year, but anywhere from October 1 till January 1st, I'd say.
I did that one year. Dr. Stauffer assigned that to me, and he said, here it is.
By paper, on paper.
Yeah, I tried on paper. He said, here it is. If you lie, it's the firing squad.
Well,
That's okay, Dr. Stauffer, whatever you say.
The fine for those oversized classes, the legislature did it intentionally, is like $55,000, $60,000, $65,000. Kind of depends on grade structure and what it is, but it's about the cost of a teacher, the fine associated.
Now, that was per class, right?
And high school is actually per every time they meet.
That's
But in
what, and
elementary,
the reason I was
it's
asking that
self-contained, it'd be all
was,
day.
I got a note from a constituent asking about school construction and you know, you can't, why do they always keep raising taxes for school stuff? And I referenced that and I said, well, just to give you background, here's what the fine is for overcrowding in school classrooms. And obviously I don't think they were aware of it. And I said, there's a reason why they're not just doing it just because they want to keep building buildings. There's a penalty there if we don't meet a set of requirements on acceptable classroom size. So it's 55 to 60,000, and a high school would potentially could be every time 75. So every time they would meet, you're looking at a potential fine if that's not addressed by the county.
They will allow us, for instance, if your ratio is 1 to 25, if you're in grades 4, 5, and 6, you can put 30 in that class. But when you put all your classes together, it's still got to go to 1.25, 1 to 25, 0.49.
Right.
They round off.
Right.
So If it goes over that, you got,
You get
you have to add the teacher.
Okay.
But thank goodness you do have that 5 thing, so when you get 21, maybe in a class, you don't have to necessarily run out and employ someone to fill
Right.
that. You can do the averaging.
And it was intentionally set to cost more than your average teacher
Sure.
would cost, so you couldn't play the game of, well,
Which one?
Pay the
I'd rather
fine.
hire
Yeah.
somebody
He's
that
gonna want you to
costs
pay the
more.
fine, didn't he?
No.
No.
I don't know anyone that's ever paid the fine.
Yeah.
And I can see why.
No.
yeah.
Committee, anything else for the finance director or the director of schools? Of course, this requires no vote, I don't believe, so we're in good shape there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Committee, any new business? Going once.
I want to publicly thank you, Mr. Jordan, for your service to the county. I'm sure I speak for everyone that served with you in the past and currently that you've certainly been a joy to work with. And
That's sure, that's right.
Well, I'm going to assume it's right. I'm going to give you the
Okay.
benefit of the
Thank
doubt.
you.
And thank you as a parent of someone that's got a child in school and as committee members and citizens for what you've done for the county and your heart and passion for education. You will be missed, but we appreciate and are thankful for your service.
Well, you're very kind, Commissioner Turner. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you very much for your service.
course,
and
of course,
Maybe
and
we'll
that-
see you somewhere else again at some time.
Well, perhaps that's true. I appreciate all of you, and if there's no new business, I see us approaching adjournment here in just a couple of seconds, and we're adjourned. Thank you, committee.